Welcome to the intersection of Black culture and horticulture with your girl, Colah B Tawkin. And guess what, y'all? We Black in the garden.
From WABE Studios, welcome to Black in the Garden, the intersection between Black culture and horticulture. Soil cousins, plant fam, and to everyone tuned in, welcome to a very special episode of Black in the Garden. I'm Joshua Hite, aka Plant Zaddy of Plant Zaddy Club, and we're celebrating 5 incredible years of Black in the Garden. And this episode is quite unique. We're switching things up for a fun twist, and I know how much y'all enjoy water moments, so stay tuned for that. But today, I get to interview the one and only Colah B Tawkin, the voice and heart behind the podcast. So stay tuned to the end because she's going to share some hot takes and highlights in the hot seat for the 5th anniversary Rapid Fire. Let's dive into the journey, the lessons, the passion for plants that have made Black in the Garden what it is today. 5 years, Colah. 5 years. Some people don't even make it past 2. How you feeling?
I feel great. I'm in my Oprah era. I'm just feeling all the feels, have learned so many lessons. Resilience is one of the biggest kind of themes along the way. Mm-hmm. But all my love for plants, my passion, my experiences, all the people I've talked to, all the lessons I've learned along the way. We don't really have enough time to get into all of it, but we're going to do our best.
We're going to touch the surface, dive a little deeper. Mm-hmm. But I think just like you said, resilience is a key theme right now. Yeah. And everybody says reach for the stars, plants reach for the sun. Mm-hmm. But I think regardless of getting to that end goal, you're always going to have to be resilient and build up your resilience. Yes. So, with our phenomenal host, Colah B Tawkin, 5 years of digging deep, breaking ground, and planting seeds of knowledge to nurture Black joy, pride, and healing through gardening. You really have a one-of-a-kind story that's blossomed quite literally from soil to spotlight. Yeah. So tell us more about that. Like, what are some of the things that you've done? We said we're going to stay, surface level, but let's dive in a little bit.
Yeah, let's dive in a little bit. I love that concept of from soil to spotlight, because when I started with gardening, period, I just was doing it for the love of doing it and trying to figure out something about the act of gardening, but also very much trying to figure out something about myself. Mm-hmm. So that was me in the beginning. And then fast forward to about 4 years later, because it was a year ago before the 4th anniversary of Black in the Garden, when I spoke at TEDx Jacksonville, which was a full circle moment.
Yes. Right there. She said TEDx Jacksonville.
Correct.
Not many people get on the TED anything stage. So that very right true. There is a huge congratulations and pat on the back.
It was a full circle moment because when I first became interested in gardening, where I grew up, my landscape of memory is Jacksonville, Florida. And so it wasn't planned for me to speak at that particular TEDx, but it worked out that way. The theme was human nature. And so on that platform, I shared a lot about my journey, and I was very open and honest about resilience meant for me, and especially discussing some of the struggles that I dealt with in being like a single, recently divorced mother, dealing with like housing instability and things of that nature.
Mother of 2.
2 what?
Children.
Child.
Yes.
Yes. So many obligations.
Okay, some of us have plants for children, but you have actually birthed 2.
I've birthed a few.
A strong single mother. So congratulations on that as well.
Thank you.
Definitely. You made it very far. Mm-hmm. So let's go back a bit. Okay. So you've been open about your story and especially the struggles along the way. Like I said before, everybody is going to have to learn that resilience and build it up.
Yes.
So take us back to 2 years ago.
So 2 years ago, I was in a shelter with my kids.
Okay.
Yeah. And it wasn't fun. As you can imagine, I was trying to navigate everything that felt like it was being hurled at me by life. And I was just very much dedicated to planentrepreneurship and trying to figure out motherhood, single motherhood, having been recently divorced, unfortunately estranged from family and not feeling supported there. And also, unfortunately, grieving the recent loss of my mother. So, how things look all pretty and cute and, Black in the Garden, theme songs and cute Instagram stuff. But your girl was really going through it in the background. So it's so helpful for me to be able to talk about it in this way. I'm really glad to be sitting in this chair.
Yes.
And knowing that I can trust you with talking me through this part of my journey to share with the audience.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for being vulnerable to share that. Because yes, you got through it, but it's another thing to speak on it. And you went through it to be able to help someone else go through it. So
for sure.
That's definitely very valuable. But one thing that came to mind during your journey, you were at a point where, let's say you were in an 8-inch pot and your roots were root bound. Your roots were poking through the bottom. It was time to get repotted. And through that journey of a plant being repotted, it does go through a bit of traumatic experiences.
It does. That's a good way to put it.
When you get settled into your new pot that's larger, you have space for growth. You've got space for new roots, space for new opportunities, whatever it might be. So look at where you are now.
I appreciate that. Thank you for bringing that to the forefront.
Definitely.
And speaking of the forefront, one thing that I would be remiss to not mention is how when I was in the shelter, in that physical space, you know what I noticed?
What?
There were no plants.
What?
There were no, I mean, maybe depending on who you ask, it may or may not be surprising, but me actually looking for something like that in a space like that is an indication to my dedication to this plant life. And so I was actually working through finalizing the special episodes that I did with Atlanta History Center. And as a result of my plantrepreneurial journey, that was made possible. And that was actually the opportunity with the money that I made with that. That helped me to get out of that space. Yeah.
So you did your time and God said it was time to move on.
It was about 6 weeks.
Okay.
But you can imagine it.
I could imagine one day. One day. But let's go back to the point of no greenery, no life other than humans. And that's what I heard when you said that.
Wow.
I guess my question would be, how did that affect you personally in such a space, not seeing greenery? Was it something that mentally you noted where it made you work harder to want to have that greenery around you, that life or that representation?
I know it might sound strange to some people to be like, oh, okay, where are the plants in here? And maybe that's not the priority for the people in that space. I get that. But the fact that I was looking for that and looking for that life, looking for that connection was an indication that this is a very real thing for me.
You know, lean in.
Yeah. It's the plants are a part of me. You know, I don't feel like I am at home if the place that I'm in does not have plants. So that is critical. And that is all the more reason why I knew, well, you can't stay here long. You got to make sure that you stay on top of what you need to stay on top of and let this be a lesson. It didn't even really necessarily feel like rock bottom, really, but it just definitely felt like this is a lower point in life.
A turning point.
A turning point. You are so wise.
Never low. I mean, you're always put in situations to get you to your next step.
Yeah.
So that's why I said earlier, like you have to go through sometimes that pain in order to build the resilience. You have to go through that journey to get to the next point because you're being put through that for a specific reason, no matter if it's for yourself, somebody else, or to create a podcast that's still standing 5 years later, affecting the culture.
I knew that maintaining the podcast, Black in the Garden, just being the spark of hope for me, it really was, it was helpful for me to stay motivated to move on past that turning point. And I knew that my story was going to be helpful in helping somebody else get inspired.
Yes.
And that's the main reason, the number one reason why I am fully cool with just opening up and being vulnerable and sharing about that on this platform today. And last year on TEDx Jacksonville, like we can't tell these stories enough.
Let's talk about some highlights. Like I said, you're 5 years in. You've had some truly amazing guests from authors, plant enthusiasts, thought leaders. You know, what have been some standout moments for you in general?
So many. The one that I like to point out is linking a few events together from one movie, which was Wakanda Forever.
Okay.
So we went to see Wakanda Forever when that came out, let's say it was 2022. And I remember going to the theater like twice to see it. And I was like, the second time I went back, I said, maybe I should take a few notes and take note of what the botanical themes are. And then I'm hit in the face with this aha moment that the Black Panther's strength comes from a plant. So I was like, oh, we cooking now. So I remember how excited I was and calling the chocolate botanist, who was like my forever collaborator in this, and saying, hey, let's do an episode about this. And I also called up my girl, Nia, who we're good friends from our journey being so connected on Instagram. And so me and them had a conversation about the botany of Wakanda. And what happens maybe about a year or so after that is an opportunity came up to do a webinar with the Smithsonian Gardens and National Museum of African American History and Culture. Huge institutions, very significant institutions for the culture between plants and Black culture. So I got to do a webinar unpacking the botany of Wakanda because I wanted to show the range of the intersection of Black culture and horticulture by unpacking that fictional world, but also indicating, hey, the strength of this incredible superhero that is so important to Black people and Black culture, whether it's fictional or not, is something that has a botanical origin.
Yeah, there's truth behind it. Definitely.
And that's when I knew, just being in my Oprah era, right, that that my contribution to the Black cultural conversation was solidified and very much valid.
Yep. And I think that not only is it valid now, but it's going to be valid in the future. Because you're planting those seeds for them to grow, within some years. So you got 5 years now, you're going to have 5 more. There is a deficiency in terms of the access to gardens and greenery and things of that nature in our communities. How does that impact what you're trying to do with Black in the Garden?
So I'm thinking about how unfortunate it is that there is a huge disparity in the difference between green space access in Black neighborhoods versus white neighborhoods, right? And it has an effect on us in so many ways, our physical health, our mental health, and even our emotional health, And so that can definitely affect the way that we engage in our community or not engage, or feel pride or not feel pride, And so I think the statistic is Black people are 3 times more likely to not have access to green spaces in the communities that they're in. Redlining, the term. Y'all know if you know, historically, Black neighborhoods have been subject to lesser conditions, unfortunately. But by having a platform, Black in the Garden, that is specifically emphasizing all things plants and nature and the need for Black people to connect with that, is uplifting those stories and making it so that we're bringing attention to it. We're raising awareness around it. And hopefully that will have a positive impact on those spaces that I'm saying need to have more green spaces.
Definitely. And I think that, plants are definitely way more than decoration.
For sure.
Not only are they a lifeline, but the more that we build our green thumbs in home, we'll be better off. Because like you said, maybe it's not in the community, but what about in our homes? It has to start in our home and then it goes out from there.
Yeah.
So I guess, how have you viewed that in terms of wanting to educate the community more rather than worrying about something that we can't fix? Because we already know, like you said, redlining is historical and so many other things.
And sometimes you just have to focus on the things that you have control over. So the cool thing that I love about plants is that we're connected to them in so many ways. They can have a positive impact on us through our food. Food is medicine, so they can also be used as medicine, of course. They create beauty, which is actually something that is necessary for us for our mental health, really. And in community gardens, obviously, when we're stepping outside of the house, we have control there. We may not be able to be excited about who's getting elected into whatever offices.
Correct.
but we do have control over what we're planting or putting into our spaces.
Mm-hmm. So, Colah, I think that's a great segue. You know, you have spent time in shelters. You've spent time developing your brand, the podcast, through a journey, trials and tribulations, from TEDx to WABE. This journey has really been incredible, Colah. Like, I am so proud of you. Sometimes I can't even explain it, but to be able to sit next to you and be able to share what we have to the world is amazing. But what do you want the Soil Cousins to take away from this 5-year milestone?
I'm not going to sit up here and lie to you and tell everybody that plants solve all of our problems. That's not quite how the world works. But I know that resilience is something that has been a key theme throughout this whole entire time. I love that just my experience with plants. Like, I'm thinking about a basil plant that I have that somehow got knocked over and the stem got damaged. I kind of thought she was dead. And then I'm just checking for it just this morning, getting ready. And I noticed that these stems that are like bent at such an angle, the leaves are still pointing towards the sun. And I'm like, well, there she go. Yeah. Like, and I'm just trying to get my coffee and get on out the door. But even in that instance, I'm noticing that resilience that the plants are consistently demonstrating. And so that's just such a beautiful example for me. They're always looking for the light. Like you just said a few minutes ago, they're looking for the light. And looking for the light. I'm trying not to cry. And looking for the light, they're finding their way to what it takes for them to thrive.
Yep. And they look different, they feel different, but they're making it. And just like you were, you know, let's just say broken, you found where you were going and you started to reach towards the light, the new light that you had.
Yeah.
We are like plants, and they may not heal everything, but they can be a catalyst to do so.
Yeah. And I would also be remiss to not mention how our ancestors did that very thing. You know, there was a bit of darkness that they experienced in being transported here from Africa. So by figuratively having our ancestors still reaching for the sun and bringing over all of that deeply rooted knowledge and wisdom and their ability to cultivate the very land that they were forced to come to, lessons to be learned from that as well. So that's what we are highlighting and celebrating on Black in the Garden 5 years later.
Okay, so 5 years in, that can get very heavy in conversation.
Let's go.
So let's take a deep breath. And I want to do what I told them that we were going to do at the end. And that's rapid fire.
I couldn't wait to do rapid fire, y'all.
So let's warm up. So we got a couple of themes that we're going to go through with a couple of questions. So we've got plants, podcasting, of course, music, Black culture, this or that. Something random.
A little something, something.
So the first thing is plants. So the first question, rapid fire.
Okay.
House plants or outdoor ornamentals?
Outdoor ornamentals.
Okay. What is the most unique plant you've ever seen?
The corpse plant. The plant that stinks real bad. It's a big flower.
Is it white?
It could be different colors. But a fun fact about the corpse plant is that it is pollinated by elephants.
Ooh.
I learned that on my journey.
See, I love learning new things every day.
Yes.
Plant Zaddy learns all the time.
You're welcome.
So third question, in Zamunda or Wakanda, which plants are better?
Wakanda.
All right, so the next one, podcasting. Remote interview or in person?
In person.
I would have to agree.
Yeah.
I would have to agree. Most challenging part of podcasting?
Remote interviews.
Okay.
We did a lot of that during the pandemic.
I get that. Look, I'm so glad that we got out of that. The pandemic has its own bruises. But okay, so third question. Dream guest for the show?
Oprah.
I know that's right. You didn't set her name plenty of times.
She be out here gardening.
Oprah, you heard that?
Knows.
You're going to have to come on Black in the Garden.
Oprah.
Okay?
Thanks for watching.
So the next theme, music. I'm going to name a plant and you have to associate it with a favorite music or song.
Okay.
Okay? Audience, that's the rules. First one, Monstera.
Beyonce.
What song?
Just Beyonce, because Monstera is a big deal. Beyonce is a big deal.
She feels
You only have to say one word.
When you hit play, that's it. Monstera.
We're done.
Got you. Snake plant.
I'm thinking of the blues for some reason. I'm thinking, I don't know why my mind just went to like being a kid in the car with my dad listening to Bobby Blue Bland. I don't know. That's what came up.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
where Cola's mind is.
Where it
Got you.
went.
Got
Mhm.
you. ZZ Plant.
Erykah Badu.
Okay.
Yes.
I want to get into that, but this is rapid
Yes.
fire for a reason. Bird of Paradise.
Bird of Paradise, Prince.
Okay.
Yes. Just like the flamboyance of Prince.
Got you. So the next thing, Black culture. A plant that reminds you of Black joy.
Sunflowers.
Okay.
Yes.
Most iconic Black historical figure who loved nature.
George Washington Carver, the botanical goat.
Okay. The
Yes.
guru. The next thing, this or that. This is random.
Mm-hmm.
Cacti or succulents?
Succulents.
Oof, I would have to say the opposite. But okay, flowering plants or foliage plants?
It's not about you this time.
Exactly. That's why I moved on.
Foliage plants.
Got
The
you.
bigger the leaves, the better. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great segue. Vines or big leaves?
Big leaves.
Agreed.
Period. Yes. Big
Rapid
leaf energy.
Rapid growth or slow growth? Are you a show or a grow? Rapid growth or slow growth? What's going on here?
I like rapid growth. Yeah, that's how I got into plants in the first place. Was I needed to feel like we were doing something together, and the plants that grew faster were the plants that I felt
instant
were more
gratification.
engaging. Yes.
Yeah. Some people, we'll get into that in another episode as well, but those characteristics and personality traits show up in what you choose and plant selection and all that. Yeah.
Indeed. And also microgreens. You know, we're talking about like a faster plant that you can grow and actually be able to eat it sooner.
Yes.
Microgreens, just maybe 2 weeks tops.
And that is the purest form as well. So you get the most nutrients. But
Y'all
that's
can thank
rapid
me later.
fire.
Yep.
Okay. Thank Colah later. And whether you've been here since day one or just joined, thank you for being a part of this community. I hope Black in the Garden has planted seeds of hope, joy, and growth in the soil of your lives.
Well, soil cousins, let me give you a high five.
For that 5 years?
For 5 years. Thank y'all so much for celebrating 5 amazing, incredible years of growth with us on Black in the Garden. It has been such an amazing journey. And here's to many, many more years of getting into the soil, digging deep at that intersection of Black culture and horticulture, celebrating, telling those stories that need to be told, this legacy that we're building and cultivating. Black joy, resilience. Let's keep planting those seeds. And remember, y'all, I want to wish y'all love, light, and soil. But before we get out of here, we got to have our watering moment.
With Plant Zaddy.
Stay
tuned.
Zaddy.
Plant fam, let's take a moment to reflect on something powerful. Just like plants, we all have our journey of growth, resilience, and blooming. Colah's story reminded us of that. Much like a plant, our roots matter. The soil we're in, our journey, and the nurturing, they all play a role in how we grow. See, think of the soil as your foundation. Just as plants need rich, supportive soil to thrive, we need community, love, and purpose to anchor us. When Colah shared her journey from facing life's toughest seasons to nurturing Black in the Garden as a beacon of joy and connection, it's clear how vital that foundation was for her growth. Then there's the environment. And just as plants respond to light and care, we flourish when surrounded by positivity, opportunity, and resilience. And sometimes growth just takes longer than we expected or is harder than we want. And just as certain plants take their time to break through the surface or bloom, our journeys are uniquely assigned to us, to you, for a reason. And the process shapes us and strengthens us and prepares us for what is ahead. And remember, plant fam, we're not too different from the plants that we love. With the right foundation, environment, and care, we too can thrive and blossom in even the toughest conditions. And as always, plant fam, keep planting more and worrying less. Plant Zaddy out. Wonderful.
We haven't been putting that in there. It should be a default. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Come on, Matchin. Got a tinkle.
That was the first time you ever clapped. You must have liked that episode.
Did you enjoy it? Right at 11 on the dot.
Love, light, and soil. We're reaping good deeds, enjoying all the spoils. Rooted in the land way back where we started. When we were black in the garden.
Black like the root of my hair, from the top of my head to the soles of my feet. Ayy, yeah.